Welcome to Pet Sitter Confessional. Today we're brought to you by Time to Pet and Pet Perennials. Today we are super excited to have a very special guest, Kate McQuillan, on the podcast. She's owner and founder of Pet Sitters Ireland and pet business owners as well. Talks a lot about social media, but has been running a dog walking and pet sitting business over in Ireland for quite some time. Kate, super excited to have you on the show. I really appreciate your time on your busy schedule. For those who might not be as familiar with you and your work, could you please tell us a little bit more about who you are and all that you do?
Yeah, so as you said, my name is Kate McQuillan. I live in Ireland, probably about 90 minutes south of Dublin. So I think most people are familiar with Dublin. We live right in the middle of the countryside. It's beautiful. So it's very quiet, very peaceful. I have two dogs, two beautiful pointers, and I live there with my husband, Michael, who also runs the business with me. So we run it together. We started our business back in 2010, so it's been a while now. We've always been pet sitting and dog walking. And really the way the business started was kind of like we had always been struggling with putting our pets into kennels. I hated it. I hated leaving them. They didn't like it. It was just kind of upsetting to put them into a kennel environment. They weren't used to that kind of thing. They used to like sleeping in the bed. And I had a friend who was in the UK and she was doing cat sitting. And it was something that I'd never heard of before. And I just thought, God, this is a genius idea. Like somewhere where you can leave your dogs where they're completely used to. And at the time we had a cat as well, leaving your pets where they get the comforts of their own home. Someone comes in and cares for them. And that's really how the business started. I thought, there's definitely a market for this. If we would love something like this in here in Ireland, there's definitely a market for it. We did a whole bunch of market research to test out the market, see if it was something people would be interested in. At the time, there were a few people doing it, but very much on a kind of casual, doing it for friends and family, not really as a business. And so that's where that started from. And then in 2017, we decided to look into franchising. Ireland is a strange place, really. There's a lot of areas that are rural. So you might think, oh, Ireland's really small, but in some ways it's a very big place because there's so much rural areas that really make it hard to service the whole thing without having, sort of pockets of people. And although at the time we had sitters in lots of different areas, it was very hard to manage them and really grow in those areas. So we looked at it as way as franchising was the opportunity to have somebody who was dedicated to those rural areas on the ground to really grow it. So we did that in 2017. We had huge success with that. We won the 2020 Franchise of the Year award. Then COVID hit, which put a bit of a spanner in the works. Really, the market has changed a little bit over here. A lot of people now are really working from home. So that has kind of changed things. We're currently sort of restructuring our franchise model. We have a couple of franchisees. Some of them sadly couldn't hang on to get through COVID, which is totally understandable. So we took a lot of those areas back in-house and manage those ourselves now. But yeah, that is really kind of our journey through the business. This year we won 2024 Pet Sitting and Dog Walking Business, Best Business in Ireland. So that was a great start to the year. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure.
One aspect of that is you sat down and you said you did a lot of market research before you started. What does that mean to you? Because I know a lot of people think market research. They think a lot of people have different perspectives on that. So from your perspective, what did that mean, and maybe how do you stay fresh with that?
Yeah, we did a lot of surveys amongst friends and family, and then wider. We did a whole survey on SurveyMonkey. Really looking at asking people like, is this a service that they would use? Do they understand it? What would they expect from it? Just really to get sort of an idea of people, would they allow you into their homes? Would people understand? It's a bit like hiring a cleaner or a workman to come in and do stuff, that kind of thing. What kind of prices? What would kind of put them off using service like this, what they currently do? To really kind of gauge the market to see where as well geographically people would do it. As I was saying, Ireland's very strange in the sense that, you've got Dublin and you've got Cork and you've got Galway and you've got Limerick, the big kind of areas. And then outside of that, you've got all these little villages, and people's the way they use services is very different from the city to the countryside. So a lot of country people might say, oh God, I would never have someone in my home, or I would never do that, or, Mary down the road would do that for me. Whereas in the city, people don't have those close-knit communities the way they would in rural areas. So yeah, they would use services like this. So, it was just really trying to understand the geographics of it all and where we would be best placed to grow the business. Because we don't actually live in Dublin. Like I say, we're 90 minutes south of Dublin, but our biggest service area would be Dublin.
Well, it is important to understand some of the biases and the preconceived notions
Yeah,
of
it's
the
really
clients.
interesting.
Yeah, because
Hmm.
we may think, oh, this is the most brilliant idea in the whole world. This makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
But if we start talking to people, what you find is you start cross talking, right? And they're
Hmm.
trying to assimilate what you're saying, but completely misunderstanding it because they're coming at it from the approach of, oh, like you said, like, I'd never let somebody in my house. What an
Yeah.
awful service. And you're like, no, it's amazing. Trust me.
Yeah. And it was really interesting because when we did the survey, obviously we had people say what county they lived in. And it was really interesting to see the different results from different counties. Like I say, city people are more open to, they're used to having more stuff, like Ubers and delivery services and people cleaners and stuff coming in. Whereas people in smaller rural areas, there wasn't such a take up on it. So that was kind of interesting. And also to see sort of some kind of idea of like pet ownership as well in Ireland. At the time, there wasn't huge statistics on how many pets people had in Ireland. It's been added to some of our surveys now that the government do, but at the time there wasn't so much data. So that was interesting to see. So that was really what started it off.
Well, it's a great way because when we talk about understanding our market, right? That it really
Hmm.
is just going, who am I serving? What are their needs? What are their beliefs about this? And how can I best meet those? Is kind of the outflow of that. Is that a survey or thing? I mean, do you send out surveys like that?
We've done some smaller surveys. We did some around the franchises and stuff, but not to that extent. I mean, that was really kind of just a setup to see if it was a viable business, really. That was, my husband was never keen on starting a pet sitting business. So it was kind of my way of proving that this is definitely a good idea. So.
Like, look, honey, there's a chart here that proves you otherwise.
Exactly, exactly.
Now, before you got started in 2010, what were you doing? What was kind of your background leading you into this?
Yeah, so I have a degree in business studies that I did over in the UK. And then I mainly worked in call centers doing statistical analysis, which sounds really boring. I enjoyed it. I like numbers. I like looking at things, what's working, what's not working. So it was all about making sure people were on the phones at the right time to answer the calls. They were all kind of international call centers. So that's what I was doing. And my husband worked in construction. So he was a site manager in the construction industry. That's what brought us over to Ireland was his job. And then really we were just looking for something that we could do for ourselves to get out of that kind of like home to work routine and, just something that we could do that would be more enjoyable, a business of our own. So yeah, we just went for it.
Well, that explains a lot about the kind of survey that you sent out now, because you were like,
Yes,
yes, I can get some data about what's out
yes. I
there.
like data.
Yeah, it is because again, well, it sounds big and scary to a lot of people of
Mhm,
numbers that I need to know. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not a math person. I don't really need to
mhm.
know that." What kind of things do you like to look for, or like, or do you think are relevant to a lot of business owners that maybe they don't pay much attention to?
In terms of marketing, is it? Or
Yeah,
just,
yeah. From
yeah,
your
I
perspective.
think I think a lot of people are looking for quick fixes. So they think they're going to do something and say, I don't know, put out one blog post, one social media post, get hundreds of likes, and that's it. They're done. They've got all these customers. I think what people need to be looking more at is, that they're answering the questions customers have, they're meeting them at their needs, they're busting the myths that people have around our industry, and showing people that, this is a service that you can use, it's safe. And looking at, instead of saying, oh, this is a viral piece of content and this is how many likes it got, look at the actual engagement on it, how people are reacting to stuff. It's interesting when you put out articles about, so for example, I put an article out about how much you should exercise your dog, what the real needs around exercise are. I'm not looking if people like that article. I'm looking for people to engage with it who have a care about how their dog should be exercised, because that leads them then on to needing a dog walker. So I think it's just a shift in what I would say called vanity metrics to actual proper engagement, where you're beginning to talk to the customers that you want to service and you're actually getting their reactions and you're getting them to engage with you and come back to you. I think that's the thing we should be measuring. Like, you could put something out and you get one like, and it kind of feels a bit sad. But like, if you get a load of people actually talking to you or contacting you, that's what you should be measuring at. And I sometimes think people miss that. Which is a shame, and I see why, because a lot of stuff is talking about how many likes, viral content, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's, if you have a mindset of, even if you get 2 people that actually interact with you properly, that's way better than 1,000 likes.
Yeah, I see that mindset a lot, that virality mindset of, oh
Mm-hmm.
gosh, look at this Instagram reel that got, 13.8 million views
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, blah, blah, blah. How do I do that in my business? And I think that big step back of going, is that your metric, right? Like, is that your metric?
Yeah.
Because that person, what's important to know is, like, that person who got the 13 million or whatever, they're making a living off of the platform, right? They're the social media
Mm-hmm.
influencer, but how many calls are you getting for your services? Like, how
Yeah.
you link it back to that of really what is that metric at the end of the day, and that it's not the number of followers that you have either. It's the amount
No.
of engagement. And man, that's easy.
It's much easier if you have a smaller audience in some respects. I mean, I've had pieces of content that have reached 30, 40 million and nothing out of them, nothing at all. Like, because it's reached the wrong people. It's not necessarily local people. When it's gone viral, it's kind of reached a more worldwide audience than just a local area. So I think smaller audiences sometimes are much better for engagement. You get a higher percentage of engagement rate, you get more local people seeing it. There's actually a story, and I wish I could remember this woman's name, but she was a massive influencer and she had a huge audience, talking hundreds of thousands on TikTok. And it was in one of the business magazines. She decided to launch a clothing line. And the whole case study was written out. She was only able to generate 30 sales from these hundreds of thousands of people that were following her, because they weren't truly engaged with what she was doing. How easy is it to click like or view a video? You could view a video and not even realize you viewed it because it's just whizzed by in the algorithm. And that just goes to show, like, you think somebody's super successful because they've got this huge following. It doesn't necessarily equate to sales. And I think, if people can realize that, I think it can be quite comforting that, even if you only have a few hundred followers on your Instagram account, you can still make money and make sales from it.
Yeah. Well, and you're kind of, you're bringing in the new leads, but also that
Mm-hmm.
other aspect of, am I nurturing my existing clients, right? Like,
Yeah.
what also am I doing with this? It's not just about the number of likes, the number of views, but there are people out there in my community who are my clients
Mm-hmm.
that I can be feeding into as well, and
Yeah.
fostering that aspect too.
Yeah, and creating relationships, because I think sometimes we focus on building an audience, getting more followers, growing our list, doing this, but are we actually, like you say, nurturing those people that have already taken the time to follow us, that potentially are getting to know us and would buy from us? And that's where having conversations with people online and being social is super important. And it's the fun part,
Wow.
chatting to people. It's just like going into a room and ignoring all the people you know and not talking to them and just looking for new people to meet. It's kind of rude.
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, that's a fantastic perspective because I know, like, we've
Yeah.
gone into like business networking events, and
Mm-hmm.
early on I did have that mindset of, and so you're literally speaking to me right now, Kate, of like, I had that mindset of, okay, I've already talked to that person and that person, that person. Who haven't I talked to today? And
Yeah.
there is an aspect of that, but there's
Yes.
still the need to go, hey, John, or hey, Samantha, great seeing you again. How's the business going? Or how's the
Mm.
family? How is, whatever. Like, that engagement is so important. And we often go, well, I've already got that person locked down because I've got their business card or I've got their contact in my
Yeah.
software. So who's the next target? And you're right. It's just rude at that point because you're kind of
It
ignoring them.
is. And you never know who they're going to refer you to. It's kind of like, narrowing in on those people that might refer you to other people or might introduce you to their network. as opposed to always going wide with loads and loads of new people. And it's fun to talk to people you already know.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have that relationship that you are growing and building from there. You mentioned about blogging, and I was curious about that. Is blogging still as relevant or as important when you started? Because I know that was something that you were really into and still are into, right?
Yeah, anybody that knows me will know what I'm going to say. I love blogging, and it has been the single biggest thing that has grown our business. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind. When we first started blogging really early on, I wrote hundreds. I think there's like 1,000 blogs on our website at the moment. Yeah, I used to write 3 times a week. I would blog about absolutely everything and anything to do with stuff going on in the local area, pet questions, reviews of products, all sorts, anything pet related. I just was obsessed with it. The amount of traffic that it brought in, I mean, we were getting like 50,000 visits a month to our website from all of the content really early on. And I think what worked for us was because we were very consistent with it. We tried loads of different things to see what would work. So I'd have categories of different blogs and rotate through them, like I said, do product reviews. And that would create relationships with local businesses. So people who were starting up small pet businesses in the area would review their products. I do tons of like pet questions, so answering about health and things like that, which have been great for sharing on social media to show that we know something about animals. I do so much stuff about the local area, which I think, again, reached out to people local to us. Over the years, I've changed our strategy slightly to be more local based. So while I do think that there's a lot of benefit in blogging about pet related products and topics, I think you're competing more. Definitely in the US, you're competing with like Pet MD and those kind of sites because they're writing about that kind of stuff. And with that traffic, it can tend to not always be your local area traffic. That's the big thing. So some of the traffic we were generating, say on answering, why does my dog, eat its own poop, was coming from America because people were finding it and search there, which doesn't necessarily benefit our business, here in Ireland. So we shifted more towards a total local content strategy. So everything was more about the local area. So writing about groomers, trainers, even local boarding places, things like this, things that pet parents who may use our services in the local area were looking for. We still did product reviews and venue reviews and stuff like that, but it was all local. And what we found was that then those local blogs were driving all of our contacts. So everybody that was coming through the website was coming via those blog posts, unless it was a direct search for our business name, but they were generating actual leads. So I have it set up in Google Analytics so you can see which blog post all our contact forms come from. And it's showing that it's that local stuff. And you're talking hundreds of leads a month. Like, this is stuff that I've written years ago that is still generating that kind of traffic. So I think why people maybe are put off with blogging because it's not instant. Like, I blogged for years and it takes time to build up that authority on Google. But once you've got it and once people are finding those blogs, that's kind of a job done then. I mean, you keep adding to it as new stuff comes up, but you've done a lot of the hard work and those leads just keep coming in. Whereas if you stop posting on social media, that's it. Leads kind of dry up.
Yeah.
So it is a longer term strategy, but there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, it's been huge for us. And even in terms of credibility we run a huge pet competition here in Ireland called the Nose of Tralee. It's kind of the pet version of a famous beauty contest that's been running here for years. And we've got massive sponsorship out of that because we're so well known. We have so much stuff in the press. We're so high up on Google, and people know us. So I think, when people and journalists are even looking for quotes for articles they're finding your stuff, all adds to your credibility. So I think, blogging is the best. I could talk about blogging all day. I wish more people would embrace it. I really do. Because I think as a long-term investment, it's massive for your business. It really is.
Have you heard of Time to Pet? Chris Ann from Raining Cats and Dogs has this to say.
Becoming a Time to Pet client has been a game changer for us. We can give our pet services clients real-time, cloud-based information they never imagined they'd be interested in. And most importantly, to me personally, I can better manage my company and look forward to more. And not a small thing, Time to Pet is responsive to my requests for new features and modifications to existing ones.
If you're looking for new pet sitting software, give Time to Pet a try. Listeners of our show can save 50% off your first 3 months by visiting timetopet.com/confessional. Why do you think more people don't go into blogging? I know you talked about like the it's not an instant gratification kind of thing, but what other things do you think holding people back?
I just don't think people like writing, maybe. Maybe they don't feel confident writing. It's a lot of people convince themselves it's not their thing. For me, though, I'm always looking at what the reward is. I mean, there's loads of things in life we don't like doing, but we do them because of the reward, you know? And to me, even though blogging sometimes can be, you know, a time consumption, you know, the reward totally offsets that. But I think for some, maybe they just feel that they don't have that time. They don't want to write. They don't know where to start. They're not very good at it. I mean, some of my early blogs were horrendous. So you do get better. That's the thing.
Yeah, it is a practice, right? And it is a process of understanding what's my writing style and being comfortable with that too, because it's also an insight into who you are as a person. When this person is reading, when that potential client is reading that blog, you know, they're hearing how you put things together. They're hearing a little bit of yourself, or reading a little bit of yourself in that content, and knowing that it can be a very personal connection that you develop with people through the information that you put out there.
Yeah. And I think we have to as well just accept that we're not going to be perfect at it from the beginning. I never had any issue with that. I just was so determined that this was going to be the thing that worked for us, that I just didn't stop until I kind of got it right. So like I say, if you go back at some of the beginning ones, they're horrific. But you get better at it. You get more results from it. Again, I would constantly look at the analytics of which was working, which wasn't. And I think that's the big thing. Maybe people don't do that when they're doing blogging. They don't look to see what results they're getting, because then once you see the results, it's kind of quite addictive. You're like, oh, well, can I get one to do more? You know, can I get more like inquiries from it? And maybe that's my numbers background, but I think that for me was a real driver, because it's free traffic. You know, when you think of the cost, I mean, we do some Google ads and we've done Facebook ads. When you look at the cost of those to acquire one customer compared to the cost via a blog post that you write once and can generate hundreds of leads, like it's a bit of a no-brainer, really. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up the paying for the ads thing of just as much as we don't like writing, like a lot of us don't like having to, quote unquote, having to spend money on those ads to drive traffic to us. But it's a sacrifice that we see is worth making to us in a lot of cases. But if we get into that mindset of long-term view, it's also going to do a lot to build my credibility, right? Build that trust, build that relationship, instead of just throwing ads in front of people, because that can be a bit spammy, or you have different thoughts about that process. It's going, no, this is a way for me to also dig into my local community. You mentioned about how now you're doing all this local content, and that's a great way to foster those relationships with the vets, with the groomers, with them, having them on or talking to them, allowing them to contribute to this stuff. It had much more holistic approach about it in that way.
Yeah, it's definitely more community. And as well as when we've done blogs about vets, like you say, then not only are people finding us through those, but that also the vet feels good because they've got a little shout out, you know. And so when someone comes in, who are they going to recommend? Us, who've actually taken some time to get to know them, or somebody who's just come in and said, can I leave my cards for you to hand out to all your customers? You know, I mean, cards do work. I'm not taking that away from it, but I think that kind of relationship building, and it's something that you don't always need to do in person. A lot of this can be done over email, you know, interviews like this, that kind of thing.
I think one of our single best performing blogs on ours was one we wrote about a very local cat rescue.
Yes.
Because when people say like surrendering cat, or when they type in, cat
Yeah.
rescue near me or whatever, our blog is usually the first hit on that, which is, instead of their website, which is fine because now we can get connected with that person. We can help.
Yeah.
We view it more of like here's a resource for the community, and people who are interested or find those kind of pets are also pet people. So we have a connection there of just being more engaged as well for them.
Yeah. I think it's a natural way of people finding you as well.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, it's not the whole spammy, ads on Facebook and things like that. It's a way someone can find you and get to know you and see, these people care. They're writing about cat rescue. There must be cat people.
Yeah.
If you need a cat sitter, who they're going to think of.
Now, you mentioned you've got thousands of blogs out there. Do you go back and re-edit them or delete any that maybe aren't driving traffic to your website?
I have deleted some because they were very dated, they'd gone out of date, but I will always redirect them to something else. But yes, I do update them. And I had a massive updating process through COVID, actually, when I had a little bit more time, just to go back through some of the old ones that needed a bit of love, should I say. And I've used ChatGPT to help with that. So just to put it in and tidy up the grammar and then I'd put in what I wasn't doing in the beginning. I wasn't putting in a lot of call to actions. So now in all my blogs, I have like banner ads which say book a pet sitter or cat sitter or dog walker, whatever's appropriate for the blog. I wasn't doing so much of that in the beginning. I'd maybe have a line sentence that said it. Whereas I've gone back and put all those graphics in a lot of the blogs, and a lot of them are performing a lot better. I've started resharing them on social. So that's good because all that content is great to have for your social media, so that you've got other stuff to share. We share tons of blog posts on Facebook. So yeah, updating is good. And ChatGPT, I wouldn't recommend having it write all your blog posts. I think it can be a great assistance. But yeah, just to be careful what it kind of spits out is fact, and that it still has your personality, I think.
Yeah, I like my my most used prompt is please spell check and grammar and grammar proof this for me because I'm terrible at that. So yeah, it's able to go. Yeah, I've written everything. I just need somebody to review this real quick and then seeing did it change anything major, right? Because I've had it spit out a few things where I was like, that's more than spell checking, ChatGPT. No.
Yeah, but it is very useful. And especially if you don't feel you're a great writer, it's great to just run it through there and let it kind of do its thing to make it. And one of my favorite is, can you make this sound a little bit better? Do you know if it's maybe like a paragraph or something and you just can't get it right? But yeah, even like a lot of blog posts, then if you're updating, you might be linking more blog posts to other ones, so that's good for your SEO, is to go through and say, you had one on dog training, linking it to other dog training ones, or I did a whole thing with all our local content. So I would set up a page for each of the counties, and then I started linking all the content for that county to that page. And yeah, so that's made a huge difference as well.
Yeah, we've started doing that as well, mostly because we got a lot of people. It's our purpose started because we would get a lot of new people to our service area, and they were like, do you know any other groomer? Do you know any other? And it was like, oh, well, I've got this blog and this blog and this blog. So now you can just take that whole page with all those blogs on it and go, here's your resource to the local area. That kind of gives them that kind of almost as a little bit of a welcome packet to them of like, welcome to where you're living, basically.
Yeah. And I think people like people who are helpful. And that's what you're doing. The more helpful you can be to people, the more memorable you are, the more they trust you and like you, the whole know, like, and trust.
Yeah. And that trust aspect in this business, in this industry, is absolutely huge. And so I was curious, you've kind of been pushing the envelope in your own business. You're changing into franchising and then changing other ways and pushing services and staying up to date on all the modern technologies. How do you go about balancing that push to always kind of be on the leading edge of things versus needing to build trust with people who a lot of clients like stability and kind of don't like change in a business?
Yeah, I think we've always stuck to our core things. I think from the beginning is we're going to turn up on time when you want us. We're going to follow your instructions, and we're going to let you know your pets are safe and your home secure. That's always kind of been our message when we're talking to people. This is like the basics of what we do. And that has never changed. That service never changes. What has changed for us with the technology, with pushing things on, is actually more efficiency, more automation, getting back to people much quicker. We have a lot of our kind of communication system automated now. We have a call center that takes calls, so people are getting responses much quicker to their inquiries. So I think in some ways, people haven't really noticed that we've evolved. They just see things are quicker and more efficient. And as time has gone on, I think people want that more. I mean, you have all the WAGs and the Rovers. We have similar apps here. And those apps are so quick. People like that kind of immediate service. And I think we've kept our core values, but we've just been able to speed things up, but yet still give that kind of feel of being a sort of a personal company. I mean, our phone number is still on the bottom of everything that goes out. We would always answer the phone. We encourage anybody who's got questions, ring us direct. You don't need to go through the call center if you don't want to. We're always available. So I think that's kept it. And everything about us on the website is about the two of us. Even though we have franchisees, we do have their stuff on there, like the homepage is about us, the social media. I'm very much kind of front facing with any press that we do, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think we've managed to keep a good enough balance where it's sustainable and, it's scalable. And we don't really try to introduce anything into the business that we can't scale. I remember I think it was the first year we were in business, we're like, oh, we're going to give everybody a calendar that is our customer every year. And the first year that was like, oh, well, this was kind of pricey, but this is a great investment. The next year we were like, holy crap, no way can we do that. No way. And from ever since that, I've thought, whatever great genius ideas you have that you want to do, just always think about, is it scalable? The bigger that you get, because a lot of things aren't, for businesses like ours, just from a cost point of view. I think that's where you let people down, because if you start off with all of this stuff when you're small that you're doing for customers, and then as you get bigger, you can't do it, people become dissatisfied. Whereas if you just kind of think, okay, am I going to be able to do this when my business is 4 times as big? If that's what you want to do. And if it's not, then it's probably something that you want to scale back or not do. I mean, we find customers just want us to do what we've promised and be there when we said we will and look after their pets and love them. They're not looking for a lot of this over and above stuff. They just want a good service, and then they're happy. And
if they had wanted a mobile treat delivery service, there's a lot of things that I can go on Amazon or Chewy or other services like that. They don't need us for that aspect. Now, it's going to be a kind thing to do, but as you started off going, how do we balance that of being innovative and also building trust? It's core values. At the end of the day, it's we're always going to show up on time. Now, how the client knows that may be different versus the automated messaging or our app or whatever we're using. The updates that may look different as we introduce technology or increase those efficiencies, but at the end of the day, they're still getting those updates. They still have that reliability, that predictability, and it is up to us as the business owners to go, can I continue with this? Just like you talked about with the blogging of, can I be consistent in this? Because there's so many good ideas out there. I see it every Christmas and every holiday and every birthday. What gifts do you give your clients? And it's like, well, be careful with that, because it can get out of hand, where if you're just starting out and you do have maybe 10 clients, it's pretty easy to get them all kind of nice gifts for Christmas. If you have 1,000 clients, a little less so. And
and it adds up so quickly, even if you think, oh, I'm just going to get them a treat and a card, even if you're just sending out Christmas cards, that can add up really quickly. So I think, I don't know whether people need it. I don't know whether they need all this stuff. I don't get any stuff from any service providers that I use, and I don't feel any less satisfied by them. Like the laundry service I use, they don't send me a Christmas gift. but they do my laundry on time. They have it ready for me to collect, and I'm delighted with the service. That's good enough for me. And I think for a lot of people, they're just looking for you to deliver on your promise.
Yes.
I really do believe that if we focus on those core things and the core services, that is enough for people. That is good. It's better than most, because some companies provide terrible service. So I think we're winning if we're meeting those core values.
Right. It is that promise that we made to those clients. And at the end of the day, and a lot of that actually, Kate, is like, we have to be okay with that. We have to feel satisfied in a job well done in that we met all of the criteria. Not that we left an extra goodie bag or we left the handwritten whatever, or we sent the card or whatever. It's we were enough. We were sufficient. And that takes a lot of we have to, personally accepting a lot of, like, it's just my work. I knew I did a good job, and that's enough for that client. And a lot of that is a refocus back on us and how we view ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's true.
You mentioned that scaling and that growth aspect. I know that you now run the largest dog walking and pet sitting company in Ireland. When did you ever see that in the trajectory of your business, or was it kind of a oh wow, look what we've accomplished?
In some ways yes, in other ways no. It wasn't like a conscious thing. I think because we knew our market so well from the beginning, and we really had a clear idea, and we were both very clear that we didn't want to be pet sitting ourselves just as a job, that we did want a business. I think, and the traffic that we generated, I think it was just inevitable that it would grow that big. And we knew that there was a demand for this service. Now, not to say there hasn't been some difficulties along the way and resistance from people who, think that kennels should be the only option and things like that. But I think it was always on the cards that it was going to grow. And I think as well, because we ran so many things alongside, like we started that competition, like it's the 11th year this year for that annual competition. Like that generates articles all over the press. We get on TV with that. It's huge. And we have big sponsors now. And then doing the franchise thing and winning the awards and things like that, that has all helped.
What's it been like managing that, maybe from a business and also a personal side as well?
Yeah, I mean, we very much split the business. You work with your wife, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, Megan and I do work very closely.
Yes. So I think for us, we had very clear roles from the beginning. I think when you work together as husband and wife, you don't want to be stepping on each other's toes. So we used to do a lot more operation stuff together, and then I kind of split off to do more of the marketing. Then I obviously have my pet business owner stuff as well.
Yeah.
Michael's background is very much in managing people and motivating. Like he worked in construction as site manager, and that's very much about getting people to kind of be where they're supposed to be, doing the right thing. And so I suppose we both brought good skills to the business that helped us kind of grow it. And
yeah, it is about finding that proper skill set. And
it is,
and if you, like, a lot of people are running a business by themselves, and so going at the end of the day, but what skills do I have, right? Let's just be honest with myself of what am I really good at, and I may still have to do some other things that I might not want to do or whatever, but what can I split off? What can I hand off to somebody else or take over, or what skills do I need to try and get better at that if I need to, if it's really mission critical right now?
Yeah, I think that's important, is getting help. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, we have the call center, which is great because it's a kind of boutique call center where you have a team that are trained just for your company.
Oh, that's cool.
So they would answer the phone as if they worked for us, but we're obviously hiring them through the call center. So that's been really good in terms of just getting response to inquiries handled quickly. And then they do a lot of quotations and stuff. They're trained on using Precise Pet Care and all that kind of stuff. So that does make a difference, meaning that we can focus more on, hiring, which is a huge thing, and marketing the business, because obviously when you're paying for outside service providers, you need to be making money to pay for all this. So marketing is a huge part of that. And then, like I say, all the other things we have going on. So, yeah, I think upskilling is something that perhaps as business owners, I don't know, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be good at everything, good at hiring, good at managing people, good at motivating people, good at marketing, good at this. And that's just impossible for one person to be amazing at everything. So yeah, upskilling is key, I think, and then handing off what really isn't your thing to other people if you can.
Our friends at Pet Perennials make it easy to send a heartfelt condolence gift directly to someone with a broken heart. They have this awesome direct-to-consumer gift model that takes the effort off of us and ensures a thoughtful, personalized sympathy gift reaches our client or employee on our behalf. All gift packages include a handwritten card, colorful gift wrap, and shipping fees across the U.S. and Canada. They also offer an array of milestone gifts and greeting cards that can be sent to celebrate birthdays, extend get-well wishes, and welcome new and rescued pets. Additionally, there are gift choices in case you need to send a sympathy gift in memory of a special human client or celebrate a pregnancy, engagement, or wedding of a pet lover. If you're interested, register for a free business gift perks account to unlock the all-inclusive discounted package prices. Since the service is used on an as-need basis, there are no monthly or annual obligations or minimum purchases. Learn more at petperennials.com, check out their business programs, or register for that free gift perks account by using the link in the show notes. We do have that pressure because it's our business, right? We started it, so I guess I must know all things. And a lot of times we hold on to those things way too long, don't we?
We do. I mean, even for us, handing it over to an independent call center is a huge thing because are they going to sell our services as well as we can? Are they going to be as passionate about them? Will the conversion be as good from inquiry to customer? And maybe then the conversion isn't as good as perhaps we would do, but however, they answer calls much quicker. They get back to people, so they talk to more people. So all in all, it averages itself out, and they're very professional, So it is hard though, because it's kind of like your baby. And you don't want other people to touch it. So I do get that. But that is how you grow. You have to kind of let things, and even when we franchised, can you trust other people to run a part of your business? Will they do it as well as you? You have all these doubts, but people do. And sometimes they do it better than you. So yeah, I think you just have to kind of let some things go so that you can grow and that you can have a life, because I don't know, this business is all consuming if you let it be, because it is so 24/7. Pets need caring for all the time. People travel away for weeks on end. If you're just on your own, I can see how burnout would be very quick.
Well, and recognizing why did we start the business? Because I don't know about you, Kate. I did not start my business to be on the phone all day long, right? That is kind of a consequence of running a business. Is phone calls now must be answered. Now, very few of us knowingly signed up to be on the phone basically 24/7, but it's now a necessity of the business. And so how do we now manage that? What that could include a call center, or sending everybody to voicemail, directing them to the website, or having things an automated phone tree or whatever. But there are ways where we go, I don't have time to answer 100 phone calls today. I just don't, and I'll never get back to them. If that's the level that I need to be and wanting to be going to, I have to find a system or a way of solving that.
Yeah. And I think for us, we were getting to the stage where we were just missing a lot of stuff because there was so much stuff coming in that, we weren't getting back to it quick enough. And unfortunately, more and more, if you don't get back to people quickly, they've already tried somebody else, because we don't just try one company and then wait 5 days for them to come back to us. We're like 5 minutes, people are kind of wanting a quick response. So I think that has helped. And the other thing is, you send them to voicemail, you send them to your inquiry form, but they're still there. You're just pushing them down the line, aren't you, to be dealt at another time in another way. Whereas if you can get like a VA or call center or someone on your team even to help you with calls, I think that can be huge, to really get through those inquiries and deal with things in kind of real time, as opposed to letting it all back up and then feeling overwhelmed.
Right. Well, and recognizing what are the client's expectations of me in this moment,
Yes.
right? Like, is
Yeah.
what are they looking for? Just like you say, Kate, of, well, people are kind of looking for that immediate
Yeah.
response, right? And we have to go, okay, how do I meet that? Do I meet that? And what does that look like for me as my business?
Yeah. And I think setting up expectations as well is key. So when someone contacts us via our contact form, we have an email that goes back saying, hey, this is an automated response. However, here's some information while you're waiting to hear back from us so that you can have a read about what we do, how we do it, what you can expect from a service like ours. So that that expectation is set up that this isn't a person replying to you, because what we found was people would reply back thinking you were going to reply straight back to them. So telling them this is an autoresponder, because some people don't realize,
Yeah.
telling them, you can expect a call back within X amount of time, and then giving them some stuff to read while they're waiting that is probably going to answer a lot of their questions. And just setting up that expectation so people don't contact you and then think, oh, is anyone going to get back to me, or when will they, or that kind of thing. So letting people know what to expect all the way through the process, I think, is key. We have all this automated stuff going out for inquiries and follow-ups, and I think it just keeps people informed throughout the process. So again, they kind of trust you. Well, these guys are on the ball, they're not letting things slip through the cracks.
And I love that idea of making sure they know it's an automated response,
Yes.
because so many times, like, we've sent out emails that we hand wrote, or we have some automated ones that send, and right, people do go, well, wow, you responded at 11:59 at night. Okay, let's talk now about pet care. And
I
you're like,
know.
no, I was sleeping.
I know. And then they come almost kind of disappointed they're not getting a reply back. Because
Yeah.
to us, we would know, oh, that's obviously an automated response. But for a lot of people, they don't even think about it. They just assume. And nowadays, some small businesses do reply late at night and do emails and business and stuff late into the evening, because that's their allotted time to do it. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
it is that kind of, it keeps that personal relationship too,
it does.
no, there's somebody here. These people care about this process, and it's
Yeah.
way more than just, I don't know how many times I've submitted a form and it just says, the little pop up just says, "Thank you for submitting," and you're just kind of staring at your computer going,
Yeah.
"So what do
Well,
you?"
we have ours set up and it jumps to another landing page, which has a video which thanks you for contacting us. And again, just reiterates some more information. So I think whatever opportunity you have at different stages through dealing with someone, that you can just, reassure them, reconfirm, let them know what's going on, all this kind of stuff. I think that takes a lot of work away from you, but gives people a lot of comfort. And even though it's done via email, I think that's fine, because I think a lot of people now don't always want to talk on the phone. They want things to be quick and automated, and they don't want to be dealing with 100 different things. They just want to get it set up and kind of be done. So yeah, a big thing is setting up people's expectations, because then they're not disappointed. If you tell them it will be 2 days before we do this, or 48 hours, or whatever, they know they've been told. They're not left wondering. So
Yeah. I just went through a big ordeal getting our vacuum cleaner repaired. You talk about nobody updating us about the process. It was so
yeah,
infuriating. It was,
it is, and you're
we
raging.
yeah, we were the ones calling every week and a
Yeah.
half. It took 6 weeks to fix our vacuum cleaner, and
Oh
it
my
was it was
gosh.
terrible. It was not a good experience. But the worst part about it is if they had just called us when they
Yeah.
said they would and said,
Mm,
"Hey, we're having these delays. Here's the new ETA. We're going to call you back in a week to let you to
yeah.
update you on this." If they had said that, keep my vacuum 2 months. I'm sure I have to use an old one and I'm not as happy about it, but at least you're keeping me informed about this process.
Exactly.
And we can't just send things out and go, well, they'll be fine. They'll be patient, because
Yeah.
they won't.
And it's such a little thing to do, to just let people know. But it makes such a difference. It doesn't infuriate people. People are kind of like, okay, well, it's not great, but at least I know.
Yeah.
That's kind of always my attitude. If you tell me, at least I know. And then I'm not wasting my time wondering or thinking about it, or getting annoyed, or thinking, now I'm going to have to email them, all the emotions. So yeah, I think it's good to keep people updated.
Kate, you mentioned it earlier about your pet business owners, and I was
Uh-huh.
curious about this, about kind of why that was important for you to start and kind of tell us a little bit more about what that is.
Yeah, so when I started with all my kind of blogging and social media, there was tons of information out there, but everything was tailored towards marketing people, helping other marketers or helping them to learn how to market. There was nothing that was focused quite so much on kind of small businesses and definitely nothing for pet businesses. So everything I was learning, I was trying to then think, how would that relate to a pet business? How can I adapt this strategy or this technique to something in the pet business industry? And really, that's why I started Pet Business Owners, because it's exactly what I would have wanted
Hmm.
to save me hours and hours of trying all sorts of stuff to figure out what worked. So just having that kind of blueprint of, here you go, these are things that you can do. These are the blogs you should write instead of having to write a million before you figure out what works. These are just the little things, like I was talking about earlier, putting in your call to actions in your blog. If I'd known to do that, think how much more traffic I would have got. All these kind of things, just understanding the little kind of nuances on social media and what type of thing works for pet owners, what they kind of react to, relate to, engage with, that kind of thing. So it was really kind of a turning a passion of mine, because I love blogging and social media, into helping other people in the same situation as me. So that's really where that came from. And then it's just kind of grown into kind of like, now I have the membership and then my marketing planner, those kind of things.
Did you see yourself as a coach, or kind of what was that process like? Because that kind of is stepping into different shoes now at a personal level,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah. I've always enjoyed helping people,
yeah.
and showing people things. And I just think it was just a natural kind of transition of sharing stuff that I'd learned, but just doing it in a way that was, like, say, targeted towards the pet industry. I find it fascinating how you can do different things and tweak them and slightly change an angle, and it can have such an impact on your business. So yeah, I like sharing that with people. It's fun.
Well, well, and just all the nuances of this industry, of how
Yes.
it's like you hear a lot of, we go to different marketing events, we have people who are in marketing and they say a lot of things. And as a business owner going, oh, that would never work for what I do, right? Being able to
Yes.
go, no, here's actually how you can take that and now apply it, or,
Yeah.
make it your own. Like that is so interesting, because there's just a lot of information out there, but trying to
There is.
understand, how does that impact me?
And also sometimes scale it down, because you see these people talking about all these kind of, oh, you need a funnel and you need an email system and you need all this and da 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 da. But for us, you don't necessarily need that complicated of a system. You can take something that would work in the marketing industry and take it for a business like ours, scale it down so it can become something quite easy for us to implement, but can have massive impact. So I think people see these things like that they've got to do this massive thing, whereas actually, you can just scale it down and have just as good results. So I think that's important too. Like we were talking earlier about TikToks that have 50 billion views.
Oh,
It's not necessary, and in some
yeah.
ways it's harmful to your business to get all this traffic. There's nothing that will never buy anything from you. So showing people that they can just do something relatively simple and easy on the go. You don't need all this tech, all these systems. You can just do it on your phone. I think that's what I enjoy most, because I know when I saw all that stuff, I thought, oh my gosh, like, I'm never going to be able to set all this stuff up and do all these things and be a video editor and vlog and all this kind of stuff. And realizing as well, you don't need to do everything. I think in the beginning, I had a podcast, I had a live Facebook show, I was doing everything. And you don't need to do that much, realistically. You just need to do the core things that work.
Well, that scale aspect, I remember early on in our business, I was trying to learn about email marketing, and I remember reading an
Yes.
article that was basically like, well, once you have 5,000 emails, and I was like, wait a minute,
I
I
know.
I have 100 clients, maybe. What are we talking?
Yeah.
How do I do this? And it was very like
Yeah. And it puts you off
intimidating.
doing anything then, because you think, oh, well, that's not for me then. Whereas you can have great results with email marketing, even with a tiny list. I mean, most people in this industry aren't looking for 10,000 new customers tomorrow. They might be looking for 20 daily dog walks or, a handful of new cat sitting customers. So some of this stuff you put off with because you think you have to have all these big numbers to have big results. And really you're looking for handfuls of people that connect with you, that understand what you do, that can see your passion. And it's how to connect, how to get in front of those people. So I think that's a big thing. You don't need big audiences.
And talking with traditional marketers, they really are like, we talk to people, we have people who contact us from radio and TV, and they're like, look how many hundreds of thousands of people we talk to, and we blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, wow, if 0.01% of those people call me, I can't take care of them. So that's all that's all wasted ad dollars at that point, and not manageable for us either. So it is a reminder of just like scale, like what is manageable for me, both in the content and the ways that I'm marketing, and what are my actual goals from this? Just like we linked back to at the very beginning of our conversation, Kate, of going, what is the metric? Is it if I'm after 2 people contacting me this week, okay, that really sets up the expectations for me as to what needs to happen here.
It does, and I think it makes you see your results and you feel more enthused by them. If you're not thinking you need 5 million people to see something, you're like, okay, so you want 2 new customers, so you just need to find 2 people that want a service like yours, that have a need for it. How can you communicate that message to those 2 people and just talk to them? You don't need to have millions. Like you say, you wouldn't be able to service them anyway if they all decided, hey, I want a dog walk today. So, yeah, I think once people get that and get how you can scale stuff down that's manageable, I think it gives people so much more confidence to go out there and do something and not feel disappointed when they don't get these huge numbers.
Kate, I really want to thank you for coming on the show today and encouraging us in that way of that there are these manageable things that we can make this our own and have that long-term mindset pretty much in everything that we do. I know that there's a whole lot more here, including all of the membership and things like that. So for people who are interested in learning more, getting connected and following along with everything you do, how best can they do that?
Yeah, so I have my website, which is petbusinessowners.com. I have a free ebook you can download, which has 27 ways to get more customers, which has a lot of stuff in that I would have talked about. I'm not suggesting for a second you do all 27 things. Pick a few things that, appeal to you. That you can get that at petbusinessowners.com/customers. So you can grab that there. I also have a free Facebook group, Marketing Your Pet Business with Kate McQuillan. And Instagram. I love Instagram. So if you go onto my Pet Business Owners Instagram, you'll see lots of funny reels there, very relatable, loads of tips, that kind of thing. And you get to see some of Ireland if you follow me on there as well.
And that's just a bonus.
It is, yes.
That's wonderful. And Kate, we had the immense pleasure of getting to meet you at the Texas Pet Sitters Association conference. Yeah. So absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'll have links to everything that we've talked about here into those resources and that free download for people to get right away in the show notes and on our website. So it's an absolute immense pleasure, Kate. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Consistency in this business is everything. When we say we're going to show up, we need to show up. When we say we're going to scoop the litter, we're going to scoop the litter. When we say we're going to blog, we need to blog. When we are consistent, this is what builds trust, and it helps bolster our reputation to our clients and our community. When we focus on those services, those core things that we as a company do best, and when we deliver on those promises, that is what helps grow us. It allows us to position ourselves as an authority because we are an authority. We follow through on what we say we're going to do. When Kate talks about building and looking for and seeking engagement over vanity, it's about being genuine to our clients and being realistic to ourselves. At the core of what we do, it's a relationship business. So when we focus on our core service, are we serving others well? By communicating effectively and setting clear expectations, everything's out on the open and everything's on the table for us to discuss and present to our clients so that they know what to expect from us so that we can deliver the best service possible. while putting them at ease and peace of mind and building and furthering the trust that we need to run the kind of businesses that we do. We want to thank today's sponsors, Time to Pet and Pet Perennials, for making today's show possible. And we really want to thank you for listening. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll be back again soon.
Yeah.